All right, so good to go. I
Yeah.
am, of course, Andy Singleton. I'm joined today by the incomparable Sigmund Bloom. Sigmund is nice enough to join me today because over the last couple of years, he's actually been quite a good friend in the industry, which is something I'm very proud to be able to say. And I'm calling the show "Hanging with Einstein." As you can see,
Yeah.
Mr. Albert in the back. Some people may have seen Albert making appearances before on the show or on this channel because I had to drag him back from Venice Beach, California, back to Brooklyn, New York, and it's a whole process of hanging him. So I just kind of went with that, and there you have it. So Sigmund, how are you today?
Great. And I think this is a tremendous idea because the strength of the fantasy football community is the people. And I think that a lot of fantasy football is about creating connections, creating shared experience, and winning and all of that stuff might not be as important as we realize when we look back on it over the years. The friends and people that I've made through the industry, I consider friends for life. And it's what makes it easy to feel like this is the right place to be because
Absolutely.
everybody is so kind and open-hearted, and it's really wonderful to get to ride this wave.
Absolutely. And just to kind of tell people a little bit more about why I'm doing this, as I was telling you, I could find information on your guys that you like and dislike at various outlets, including football guys, including your timeline, everything like that. But as far as who you are, like it means a lot to me. Like we like players that we cover because of their personalities and
Yeah.
charities they might contribute to and things like that. But when it comes to the analysts, we really don't know anything about each of us individually. Some people know I'm a firefighter in New York City. A lot of people don't. When people hear that, they gravitate a little bit more towards me. You in particular, I knew of you. I knew your work, but it wasn't until I really got to know your story a little better. Again, going back to my job, I attended into a bunch of car accidents. My
Hmm.
fiance almost died in a car accident, and then learning of your story where you kind of were in a similar predicament and just said, you know what, I'm going full head of steam into this fantasy football thing, and your whole life perspective changed, and that's when I really like picked up on you and you and I pretty much I think we're a couple months apart in age and I found so many other things that I share with you, as far as our baseball love and our Big East basketball knowledge and things like that. So I really wanted to give you an opportunity for you to tell people a little bit more about yourself. And for those that follow me or follow you that can really kind of introduce themselves and you can come into their home and say this not only should you be listening to me because I know what I'm talking about with fantasy football, but you might like something about me as well. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, so please go for it.
Yeah, and I won't try. I mean, I tell everybody my life story, like the first time I meet them. But I want to say first that as you're doing this show and you're uncovering all these things about people in our industry, there's a amazing wide range of backgrounds, day jobs, stories, and what people love about football and what people love about fantasy football. So I think this is tremendous. To what you're alluding to, for everybody out there, I think this is important because we all have we're all at different levels of satisfaction in our professional life. I had an easy job, it was a good job, but it didn't fulfill me. And for a few years, I started to really struggle with the idea of this is all I'm going to do. And I really wanted to make the leap to doing something with football. I originally wanted to be the play-by-play announcer for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I went to Syracuse to be a broadcast journalist, broadcast journalism major. That went south. Long story there. I went to law school. I knew within a week I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I finished that through. Long story there. Worked at UT for a while. But anyway, yes, a drunk driver. As we were pedestrians, my wife, my best friend, and I, and two other people were hit by a drunk driver while we were waiting across the street after a Black Crowes concert, and I don't remember any of it. I woke up in the hospital, and my best friend died. The thing here is the lesson was life is not going to roll out a red carpet for you. Life is not going to make it easy. Life is not going to make it safe. You have to do that and go for it without those assurances. And in reality, from day to day, we don't ever have those assurances. We convince ourselves we have those assurances. But again, in your line of work, you understand tomorrow is not promised to anybody.
Right.
So, so it's bet on yourself, believe in yourself, and even if it goes badly, then you learn a lot about yourself. And learning where you don't fit is still learning. I mean, it's still progress. But otherwise, I'm really passionate about live music. I'm going to see Thundercat tonight. Really excited about a bunch of things going on in the hip hop jazz world. Thundercat did a lot of the music on the new Kendrick Lamar.
Right.
You know,
You just mentioned. Well, I was going to
good.
say you mentioned the Black Crowes concert, and I was going to say, what are your other musical tastes? Because I know you're all across the board. Like you know all
Yeah.
kinds of '90s hip hop as well. So
Oh yeah, I just love good music. I'm more of a music. I like music that goes down smoothly. I'm not much. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I'm not so much into metal or punk or hardcore or things like that. I can appreciate those.
right.
But I've always been. I was a fish head in college and went to way too many fish concerts. The Great Adventure to mention in the '90s. But yeah, hip hop. Going to see Straight Outta Compton at the movie theater was really special because as I was a 13. Again, we're the same age. 13-year-old kid when Straight Outta Compton comes
Yes.
out. I mean, it just changed our life. I mean, it just opened our, especially growing up in a coal mining town in Western Pennsylvania. It just cut right through. And so live music, I'm very passionate about. I'm very passionate about travel. Again, fish tour. I've been lucky enough to go to like New Zealand and India and Europe a few times, and I plan on checking a lot more of those off my list. It's all just about the experience. I mean, I'm about experiences, not things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good time for us to be alive because we have opportunities now that really nobody in history has had before.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned the Straight Outta Compton movie, and I felt the same way because that pretty much was. I mean, from the moment I can remember having my own ideas about music and culture and fashion and what I wanted to be was when that whole era and movement started. So that's basically that movie was my whole life in a nutshell, even to present day. Um, Now you also mentioned travel. I joke around with Josh Moore because he posts about his traveling
Right.
experiences. So where are some exotic places you've
Yeah.
been to that you stand out as your favorites?
Yeah, and I think that he went to Colombia a few years ago, right? Which I'm really interested in going to Colombia. I think that Colombia is considered one of those get in now. It's all the stuff we've associated with. You have to go to Pablo Escobar's compound. It's like a theme park now. So all that stuff's in the past in Colombia. It's a wonderful, beautiful place that I'm looking forward to getting to. But I've been to New Zealand. It's paradise. I've spent 2 weeks in India. I'm going all over India. It's intense. It's really intense. It's nothing could possibly prepare you for India. And one of the things I want to say about India is that if there's a place in the world that the culture, the music, the art that interests you, try to get to that place. Make a point. It's like max out your credit card. Do what you have to. Like if it's Japan, if it's Egypt, if it's wherever. I don't know if Egypt's that safe right now, but if it's Brazil, if it's Scandinavia, if that place speaks to you, then there's something there for you to discover. There's something there for you to find. And India was just overwhelming. And then just being lucky enough to travel through Europe after I graduated from law school, when there was still lira and francs and all the different currencies and there were still borders that reflected the differences in the places you were going to, and things have gotten a lot more expensive since we were kids.
Yeah,
listen how, we're old. We're getting old when I can say that with no hint of irony whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I feel lucky that I was able to travel a lot at a time. Like backpacking around Europe now, it used to be you could do it because you could get by on like $15 or $20 a day. Not anymore.
Yeah, I think the kids are still doing it. I think just our expectations have changed and what we expect out of life. Fresh water and change of clothes and things of that nature. So you could probably squeeze by on what you had, but like I said, I think our surroundings have changed as we've progressed. But do you have anywhere on your to-do list coming up for travel?
Well, my wife and I are talking about the places next up would be like Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Greece, and Turkey. And I know they need people to go to Greece right now. They need us to go there. So let's go there. And Machu Picchu. And Machu Picchu is one that is that's the next time I get to say where our big bucket list vacation is. My wife isn't great with altitude sickness, so we'll see how that one goes. But it's a wonderful thing, and I think that there's a great site out there called amusingplanet.com. And it shows you that there's so much fascinating there's so much in this world that's interesting. That's why I love documentary films. I love movies. I especially love documentaries because reality writes better stories than any human being could ever come up with. It's just the way that they're presented. So, and getting out and traveling is like that too. And the other thing about getting out and traveling is that you learn what's true about yourself. I think there's a lot of things about ourselves where our life kind of erodes or shapes us into the things that it's asked for, that we're asked for, like your job and your daily duties and your family life and things like that. But who are you when you take yourself out of that? That's who you really are. I mean, that's who you are across all situations and all things. And maybe it might actually also restore your sense of wonder. This goes back to the idea of that slight amusing planet. If you can get to a point where you have a sense of wonder in the world, then happiness and fulfillment becomes elementary. And I can go back to traveling to India. India has unbelievable poverty. I mean, poverty way beyond anything any of us have experienced firsthand.
Right.
But when you meet people in the slums, and when I say the slums, I mean like 10 people, a family of 10 living in like a 10 by 10, 3 cinder blocks with a tarp sprung over it, you know? But the glimmer is in their eye, because in Hinduism, there's this idea of the joy of participation, that all you need is that you're part of the cosmic dance, that you're in there somewhere. Right. What an honor. Right. What a privilege just to get to exist at all.
Yeah.
Get to that point, I think travel can get you back to that point. If you can get to that point, happiness becomes easy.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. You were mentioning Machu Picchu, and I actually am of Peruvian descent. So with the being the altitude stuff, don't tell your wife that the plane has to fly in sideways.
I know. Well, you can actually spend the night there too. Like you can camp there and overnight. But even just the whole area of like Peru and Ecuador and Bolivia and the cultures there, and I love. I can branch off into it. I also love arguing. I'm a Dorman attorney, so I love arguing. I love arguing about politics and things like that. And I love, I think was it Bolivia that elected like a native president? It was Evo Morales, I think his name was. Yeah. But I just love what's going on in that part of the world too. So I want to be there and experience it and feel part of it.
Well, I was just going to add on to what you were saying about, traveling can bring you back a little. I mean, we sometimes make fun or poke fun at people that come from other cultures to our country and, what they're willing to accept and everything like that. But if you travel outside of the country, you see just like how much of an upgrade it is, just having that, what we, forsake in this world.
And take for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't appreciate. It's all about appreciation.
Right.
It's what we don't appreciate.
Right.
So that's one of the best things about a vacation. Hopefully at the end of a vacation, you're happy to be going back home, right? Yes. It makes you realize, like, I like traveling. I like what's out in the world. I also love my life. I love my family. I love what my day-to-day asks of me, too. So
absolutely,
you create that circle.
Well, now, you're currently in Texas, but you grew up in Pittsburgh, and you're very fond of Pittsburgh. You're probably one of the biggest Pirates fans I know of. Is there any hope in your life that you move back to Western Pennsylvania?
I don't know. Weather is an issue. My wife is a native Texan, and I think if we move, we might move further west to Colorado or maybe back to New Mexico. I've got roots in New Mexico, too, in Albuquerque. But I will say this. If Pittsburgh, I graduated from high school in 93. If Pittsburgh was the place that it is now in 1993, I might not have been eager to leave. Right. It's a wonderful place. I live in Austin, Texas right now, and I've heard Pittsburgh mentioned it's the new Austin because it's vibrant. It's got a lot of colleges and universities that keep everything fresh, keep a lot of new people and new ideas. From the industrial city it used to be, now it's like corporate headquarters city. And of course, there's the natural settings. There's the people, the salt of the earth folks, and everybody. I think everybody you meet from Western Pennsylvania. There's a lot of people who don't live there anymore, but everyone still loves it, and that's why I think the Steelers fandom runs so deep to the bone, because it's really about this shared experience of growing up in this place and having roots in this place. And the Steelers are the way that we express that. And the Pirates, I thought you were going to ask me if I would ever see in my lifetime a Pirates World Series.
Oh, no.
I was 4 years old when they won in '79. Does that count?
It does. We're headed towards maybe the Yankees and Mets both being in the playoffs this year, and I got to go to the parade.
Nice.
The parade with not the World Series, but to the parade with my father when I was 10, turning 11 in '86 with the Mets. So actually, I might have already been 11. I was born in '75, so I might have already been 11. I don't know. It was way back, too long ago to remember. But
we're getting old. Again, we're getting old.
And I think if you got this might be as good a shot as you've ever had for the Pirates. And so I'm
Jake Arrieta, though, they're going to face last year's Madison Bumgarner. This year, Jake Arrieta. Like, we're just going to face the best pitcher in baseball in the first playoff game, I guess. That's how it's going to go.
He's been amazing, hasn't he? Arrieta, unbelievable.
They said they were comparing him to Bob Gibson, and they said, well, not quite, because he actually has a better second-half ERA than Gibson had in his famous '68 season. And again, this is what's waiting for the Pirates. So, hey, I hope the Cubs, just anyone but the Cardinals. We're tired of the Cardinals.
Yes. Well, don't want people. I confuse a lot of people that I'm a Met fan. I'm actually a diehard Yankee fan. I just happen to be into prospects, NFL draft and baseball prospects. So the Mets have been more exciting the last few years. I've been a big Jake DeGrom fan and things of that nature. But today was also the sad passing of one of the all-time greats of just life in general, but especially for the Yankees and baseball. And I'm speaking, of course, of Yogi Berra. So it kind of goes kind of to the attitude that you've been preaching, which we kind of share, and that's enjoy life, just live it up, enjoy the moment. Do you have any Yogi Berra isms or memories?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've been going back and forth with people. We're going to actually mention football. I've been going back and forth with people about Dion Lewis, and they keep saying, Belichick and the running backs. And I said, well, everything hasn't happened until it has. And they said, is that a Yogiism? I didn't even know that. It was early this morning, so I didn't know that he had passed. But obviously, I think that Yogi Berra's every person persona, which is very rare for anybody that ever gets to the heights that he's gotten to, and the grace that he embraced. We'll remember him for these quotes in a kind of ha-ha funny way, but I think he's a philosopher. He's a Zen figure, and obviously some of y'all might be able to tell. Like I study Eastern religions and thought. I study all religions and thought, but I think there's a lot for the Western world to get out of the Eastern world, and in his way, while we're laughing, Yogi Berra is trying to show us that,
Yes.
that it's all just one thing. You can decorate it with words that make you sound like you're talking in circles, but that's because that's what life is. That's what reality is. That's what existence is.
Absolutely.
So, I think that I think that it's important to remember that the truths with a capital T are the simplest truths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, again, going back to why I wanted to do these shows is I hope people are starting to learn a little bit about you that they might not have known before. Even just something as simple as your age or where you live, and maybe that helps somebody connect a little bit more to you. And I saw recently somebody asked you, I think it was right before week 1 or something, if you had a philosophy or a psychology background or something like that, and you responded in the comments saying,
I've got a philosophy degree. I got a year and a half into broadcast journalism, and it just wasn't for me. And I had taken a philosophy of math class, and it was just me and a graduate philosophy student and a math teacher who was taking it, like just auditing it because they wanted to learn about philosophy of math. I loved it. I loved questions like, does zero exist? Is space granular or is it infinite? What does the set of all sets destroy set theory and things like that? There's probably like 3 people out there but those 3 people are excited. And that made me think, well, philosophy. I mean, I'm a navel gazer anyway. I think fantasy football is great for philosophical people because you're just navel gazing and looking at the reflection of your thoughts in the mirror. And it was wonderful. And what's really incredible to me is that at the time, I was going off I was studying Hegel, Marx, and Nietzsche. I was studying a lot of liberation theology, a lot of critical race theory, feminism. I think you can probably do the math and figure out where I am on the political spectrum. And there's a lot of things at that time that were like ivory tower, pure theory, just dense academia. Mm-hmm. And all of those conversations, Andy, are mainstream now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about those things in this public square.
Right.
So while it feels like we're going backwards on a lot of these things, I think we're going forward. I think we're getting all these things out. We're decoding all of this stuff. We're getting it up to the surface, mm-hmm. and we're going to work it through. I mean, this is an amazing grand experiment this country is. There's a lot of things about it that, you have to tell the truth of the history of it, but it's always improving.
Yeah.
And having studied those things back in the mid 90s and see now that there are conversations about things like the male gaze or white privilege, mm-hmm. It's incredible. It's progress.
Well, I'll ask you something then towards this end. Now, obviously, there are pros and cons to it, but do you think we're better off with the advancement in technology and just how, in each other's lives we are? I mean, the fact that you and I are communicating from New York to Texas right now.
Right. And I think that's an important thing to point out because people will blame technology for things. But technology can estrange us or alienate us from each other, or it can bring us together. It's up to us. Mm-hmm. It's a tool. But I do think that on the whole, the internet and social media and the I mean, the internet, the network in between all of us, is a precursor for a bigger leap. And there's a couple of things about it. One is I think we're all brain cells in a big brain now. We probably always have been, but now it's more apparent. Mm-hmm. And this is us making a connection right here. We're making a connection from this brain cell to that brain cell. And each of us as a brain cell are experts in something or many things, or otherwise can bring certain information to the table, and we pass that around via all of our social media, and together we make this brain. It's almost like all those stories, Andy, about the oracle and mythology. We have it now. This is it. We're here. This is the future. It's happening right now. And most importantly, growing up in a small town, I think there are a lot of people who grew up, maybe you figured out eventually that you weren't crazy, that you weren't weird, that the things you were drawn to, the way you were wired, mm-hmm. is okay. It's valid. And I think when we grew up, and especially in previous generations, it was easy to feel like there was just something wrong with you if you didn't fit in your small town or your small area that you were. And now with the internet, you can immediately see, no, there's a lot of people like you.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that feel the way you do. There's a lot of people that like the things you like.
Absolutely.
And you can embrace that, and you can you can stand on. I mean, you can go out into the world and with confidence be the person that you are and give your gifts to the world, and the world will give its gifts back to you, and you don't have to conform or try to be something that you're not, because you know that it's not true. There are a lot of people out there just like you.
Absolutely. And it's amazing when I listen to you speak, and just your whole presence and aura, just how professional, and you just brought this back full circle to again the whole point of what I'm trying to do with this. This is a football channel, and I'm talking with football personalities and people, but other than mentioning the word football, we're not even getting into that. And and you just brought it back full circle to exactly what the point of this is. And hopefully some people watching, and that gives an opportunity, will feel a greater sense of connection with you, and it just takes it to a whole nother level, and it feels more like I'm talking to a friend that I can confide in than I'm just dialing an 800 number for pre-recorded advice. So I know I asked you for 15 minutes of your time. We're already at 20. I know you got hundreds of thousands to entertain for the rest of your day, especially being a busy hump day Wednesday in football. Is there anything you'd like to part with?
No, just that we're all doing fantasy football or whatever it is that we're doing to pass the time. I think what we all crave on the most basic level is to have a positive effect on someone else's life. And that's why we create all these connections. And that's why I say, I think the biggest mistake that we all make, unless you're just an unrepentant mooch, is that we don't ask each other for help enough. We don't ask each other for help when we need it. Because when you ask for someone for help, you're doing them the favor. You're allowing them to have a positive effect on your life. You're allowing them to have grace flow through them. We all want those opportunities. So ask each other for help, because it creates that connection and bond that we want anyway. And we're all here for each other. So I mean, I want to help you with your fantasy team and things, but people say like your show helps us get through. I had to fly across the country for my grandmother's funeral or something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, having the opportunity to serve everybody and the privilege to do that does that for us. That I have these shows and these things to write and things like that to give my life form and function, that I have this audience and these followers and these wonderful people that I can serve and helps me.
Yes.
So as long as we keep interacting, as long as we keep that free flow, the joy of participation going, we're all making each other better.
Awesome. And that's just it. Like you said, a guy traveling across country, and he could have picked out any book at the duty-free shop to read on the plane, or listen to any podcast, and he wanted to hear your voice. And it goes to, he has some connection with you. And hopefully this brings some more people. So I want to thank Mr. Bloom, Sigmund, of course, Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys, one of the leading fantasy football brains, a poet as well. I have his Twitter information there. You can follow him if you're not already, at Sigmund Bloom on Twitter. And check out all his stuff. His podcast, top notch every week. And all his information at Football Guys is definitely something that will help you with your fantasy football team. So thank you again for joining me today.
Cool, man.